Welcome to the Bookworm Duo, where we explore a variety of books. Let's get started.
Okay.
Today, we're diving deep into Kristin Hanna's The Nightingale,
hmm
a story about two sisters in Nazi-occupied France.
Right.
If you're looking for a refresher on the major plot points or want to be prepped for your next book club meeting,
Okay.
you've come to the right place.
It's a powerful story, that's for sure. Hannah really captures the atmosphere of wartime France
Right.
and the ways in which ordinary people had to make extraordinary choices just to survive.
Right. It's easy to forget how much daily life was disrupted.
Yeah.
So let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
Before the war, we're introduced to Vianne and Isabelle Rossignol living in the French countryside.
hmm
But even then, their personalities are pretty different, aren't they?
Absolutely. Vianne, the older sister, is very much grounded in reality. She's cautious, practical, already married with a young daughter named Sophie.
She's got that mom
Yeah.
energy, thinking things through, always putting her family first.
Yes.
Isabelle, on the other hand, is a bit more, shall we say, impulsive.
That's one way to put it. She's still young, yearning for adventure, a bit rebellious.
Yeah.
And you can already see how that difference in temperament is going to play out once the war hits.
Because their peaceful world is completely shattered when the Nazis invade France.
That's
It's a turning point, right? Everything changes.
It's a catalyst. Vianne, with her husband at the front and a child to protect, is forced into a position where every decision is about survival. And then there's the added tension of a German captain being billeted in her home.
Talk about an unwelcome house guest. I can't imagine the constant fear she must have felt having this enemy soldier living under her roof.
And the moral dilemmas. Early on, she gives Beck, the German captain, a list of names, thinking it's for a simple census. But that decision comes back to haunt her later.
Oh man, that's foreshadowing if I ever heard it.
Yeah,
It makes you wonder how much you can trust anyone in that situation.
exactly. And then there's the secret she carries. She ends up sheltering Rachel's baby, Ari,
Oh,
passing him off as her own adopted son.
wait, who's Rachel? We need to back up a bit here.
Rachel is Vianne's best friend,
Okay.
and she's Jewish. When the Nazis start rounding up Jews for deportation, Vianne is forced to watch helplessly as Rachel and her children are taken away.
That must have been just heartbreaking for Vianne. To see her friends suffer like that
Yeah.
and know she can't do anything to stop it.
It's a turning point for Vianne. It makes the danger very real, very personal. And when Rachel secretly leaves her baby with Vianne, it's a huge risk,
Wow.
but Vianne can't turn away.
So Vianne is dealing with all this while trying to keep her own family safe. Meanwhile, Isabelle is off on a completely different path, right?
Right. Isabelle, always the fiery one, flees to Paris. She's driven by this burning sense of injustice, a need to fight back.
So she joins the resistance.
She does. At first, it's small acts of defiance, distributing anti-Nazi leaflets,
Oh.
things like that. But she quickly gets involved in more dangerous activities.
Such as?
Helping down Allied airmen escape over the Pyrenees Mountains, it's incredibly risky, with the Gestapo constantly on the lookout.
You're telling me one wrong move and she's done for.
But amidst all that danger,
Yeah.
there's also a bit of romance for Isabelle.
Okay.
She falls in love with a fellow resistor named Goetan.
So even in the midst of war, people find connection and hope.
It's a testament to the human spirit. Even in the darkest of times, we seek love, we find ways to resist, to hold on to something good.
It's inspiring, but also terrifying. I can't imagine living with that level of constant danger.
And that's just the beginning for both of them. As the war drags on, the stakes get even higher. And both Vianne and Isabelle are forced to make choices they never could have imagined.
This is getting intense.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground already.
Mm-hmm.
So before we get to the even more gripping parts of the story, let's pause here and reflect.
Okay.
What stands out to you so far about the choices Vianne and Isabelle have made? What do their paths tell you about the different ways people cope in times of crisis?
That's a great question.
Take a moment, dear listener, and think about that. We'll be right back to continue our deep dive into The Nightingale.
Okay, so we left off with Vianne and Isabelle on these incredibly different paths, both facing danger in their own ways. But the war keeps grinding on, and things just get tougher for everyone in France.
That's one of the things that Hannah does so well in this book. She captures how the war slowly tightens its grip on everyday life. Resources become scarce, fear becomes constant, and even simple acts of kindness become risky.
And for Vianne, the stakes keep rising. She's already harboring Rachel's baby, but then she's forced to make an even more difficult choice.
To protect Isabelle, Vianne ends up killing a Nazi officer. It's a turning point for her. She's no longer just trying to survive. She's actively resisting, even if it means taking a life.
Wow, that's heavy stuff. It shows just how far she's come from that cautious, practical woman we met at the beginning. What about Isabelle? Is she still running missions for the resistance?
She is, and her network is growing, becoming more organized, undertaking bolder actions, but it's a constant game of cat and mouse with the Gestapo. So it's only a matter of time before something goes wrong, right?
Right. And despite the danger, Isabelle decides to return to Le Jardin seeking refuge after a harrowing escape. Remember, she's a wanted woman by this point.
So the sisters are reunited, but under incredibly stressful circumstances. Talk about a family reunion you wouldn't want to be a part of.
And the world around them is crumbling. The war is taking its toll on everyone. Hannah doesn't shy away from depicting the brutality of it all.
And then there's the horrifying massacre at Oradour-sur-Glane. It's a real historical event, right?
Okay. The Nazis murdered hundreds of civilians in that village. It's a chilling reminder of the true cost of war. In the book, this event deeply impacts both Vianne and Isabelle. It underscores the urgency of their actions, the fight for freedom.
It's the turning point in the story, for sure. But unfortunately, things don't get any easier for the sisters. In fact, they take a really dark turn.
Tragedy strikes when Isabelle is captured by the Gestapo and sent to a concentration camp.
Oh no, I knew it was coming, but it's still so hard to hear. And what about Vianne? Does she escape the Nazis' wrath?
She faces her own ordeal. She's raped by a Nazi officer and learns that even French-born Jewish children are now being targeted for deportation. It's a terrifying time.
Her world is just falling apart. But she still has her children to protect. How does she even keep going?
It's her resilience that keeps her going. And then finally the war ends. Liberation arrives.
Yeah,
But it's bittersweet.
because of everything they've lost.
Exactly. France is free, but the scars of war run deep. And for Vianne, there's a secret she carries from the occupation.
She's pregnant with Beck's child.
Yes. It's a reminder of the darkness she endured and the complexities of survival.
And what about the aftermath? Did they ever get any sense of closure or peace?
There are reunions, but they're not easy. Antoine, Vianne's husband, returns from a POW camp, but he's a changed man. Adjusting to life after the war is a struggle for him.
And Vianne is trying to rebuild her life with this heavy secret weighing on her. Plus, there's the heartbreaking decision about Rachel's baby, Ari.
She ultimately chooses to return Ari to his surviving family. It's another layer of loss, but it's also a testament to her love and compassion.
So much loss, so much pain. But what about Isabelle? Does she survive the concentration camp?
She does. She's liberated, but tragically she dies shortly after being freed. It's a devastating blow for Vianne.
It feels like a cruel twist of fate. She survives all that, only to...
It highlights the enduring impact of trauma, the invisible wounds that war inflicts.
It's hard to imagine coming to terms with so much grief and loss. Does Vianne ever find a way to heal, to move forward?
Years later, Vianne embarks on a journey to Paris with her adult son, Julien. She's finally ready to confront her past and share her story, revealing the strength and resilience she found within herself.
And honoring her sister's sacrifice.
Exactly. It's a testament to the enduring power of memory and the importance of speaking truth to power.
It's a long and difficult journey for both sisters. But in the end, there's hope, right?
There is. Despite the darkness they endured, both Vianne and Isabelle embody the strength of the human spirit. They remind us that even in the face of unimaginable suffering, hope, resilience, and love can prevail.
We've covered a lot of ground here, unpacking the major events of the Nightingale. But before we wrap things up, let's take a moment to consider, what's one moment or event in the story that really resonated with you? What makes it stand out in your mind? Take a moment to reflect, and we'll be back to delve deeper into the lasting impact of the Nightingale. Welcome back to our deep dive into the Nightingale. We've journeyed with Vianne and Isabelle through the darkest days of the war, witnessed their struggles, their losses, and their moments of incredible strength.
It's a story that stays with you, that makes you think about the power of the human spirit to endure, to resist, and ultimately to find a way forward even when all hope seems lost.
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes The Nightingale such a powerful read. It's not just a historical novel. It's a testament to the resilience of women, the enduring strength of family, and the importance of remembering those who fought for freedom, even in the shadows.
It definitely sheds light on a part of history that's often overlooked, the role of women in wartime. We tend to focus on the battles and the soldiers, but the Nightingale reminds us that women were fighting their own battles, making their own sacrifices on the home front and behind enemy lines.
And it doesn't sugarcoat the realities of war. It's a brutal, heartbreaking story at times. But it's also a story about hope, about love, about finding the courage to keep going, even when everything seems impossible.
Exactly. And it leaves you with a lot to think about. What would you have done in Vianne or Isabel's shoes? How would you have reacted to the constant fear, the moral dilemmas, the pressure to choose between survival and resistance?
It's a question worth pondering.
Yeah.
And it makes you appreciate the sacrifices that so many people made during that time.
And it connects us to a larger conversation about resilience and the human spirit. It reminds us that even in the darkest of times, there are always glimmers of hope, acts of courage, and moments of beauty.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Nightingale, what are some of the key takeaways you hope our listeners will carry with them?
I hope they'll come away with a deeper understanding of the complexities of war, the courage it takes to resist oppression, and the enduring power of the human spirit to overcome even the most challenging circumstances.
And a renewed appreciation for the stories of women in history. The Nightingale is a powerful reminder that their voices deserve to be heard, their sacrifices remembered, and their contributions honored. Thanks for joining us. Subscribe for more bookish adventures and hit that like button if you enjoyed the ride. Don't forget to share the knowledge, spread the word.